Back in today with another reaction to Kowloon Generic Romance, this time with episode 9, I believe. Good episode last week. As I said, I'm just going to kind of stop theorising about where this could be going and just kind of go with the flow a little bit more. And I quite enjoyed... fucked that up already. Sorry guys. I quite enjoyed going through the episode last week with that kind of perspective on things, even though I would in a mystery show I would really like to theorize about stuff. I mean, that's one of the major drawing points for me. Yeah, like I said, it was a decent episode last week. Not too much covered, to be honest. We did see the main couple end up getting together, which was cool. Discovered a little bit about the rumours and such of Kowloon, which aren't really rumours because it is true that people outside can't see the same nostalgic scenery that the inhabitants can. But I did again kind of theorize that maybe this is the fake Kujirai. Who knows? But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Leave a like on the video if you guys would like, and subscribe to the channel if you do want to keep up to date. What I do really like about the show is the tone of it is really cool. The characters are interesting and likable. It's just like the plot, which is one of the most important things in a show like this. It's not as interesting as the other assets. I mean, it is, but the fact that we haven't learned anything, I've said it 100 times, but the fact that we don't actually learn too many facts about what's going on kind of detriments the story a little bit. It feels like it's not really going anywhere. Oh, we saw a few episodes ago that she didn't want to read the second half of the book she was reading. Maybe that scene there alludes to me being right about the whole this was actually the fake Kujirai. The way she worded that was a little bit suspicious. Non-alcoholic, eh? I've never really got that. I mean, I know if you're a recovering alcoholic, it'd probably be good for you, but alcohol, I've never really tasted a very nice alcohol. I mean, there's some that taste tolerable and decent, but just much rather drink a soft drink that tastes nice. But I do understand for recovering alcoholics, it's a good thing. It's kind of like what a vape is trying to be. Vapes are still bad for you, but they were initially kind of marketed on the basis that there would be a better alternative than smoking. I'm pretty sure that hasn't ended up being the case. Non-alcoholic beer and such, I imagine it is a successful version of that, I guess. But yeah, as I said, I've never really, like, there has been times, I don't really drink too much anymore, but there has been times when a beer is on like a hot day, a nice cold beer is lovely, but I'm not sure if that's because of the taste. That was my drink of choice. Where did you just drink quite a bit? Beer most of the time. I quite like whiskey. Whiskey's quite nice. Sambuca I quite like. What's the Mexican one I'm trying to think of? I forget now. Rum I quite like as well. And when I say like, I mean in terms of alcohol. I mean, if I'm comparing that to like water or orange juice, tastes like shit. Again, I kind of wish Kujirai like stuck her finger out a couple episodes ago, just to make sure that she is an imposter or whatever. Not sure we ever found out what that kind of monstrous sounding name meant. I can't remember what it was called at all, but it was some like monstrous name for like a double ganger or something. Well, they must have some effect because it's one of the things with this. I mentioned this about like the whole banking last episode about the kind of logistics of that. I can get past like stuff like that if it's like I don't need shows. I mean, there's a supernatural element obviously going on here. People really sometimes go to the extremes of, well, you're watching fiction, so nothing needs to be down to earth. Sometimes in shows, when they're down to earth, like this in a lot of aspects, they have a supernatural element, but in many aspects, they're quite down to earth. You expect things, normal things, to kind of make sense and work logistically. I did kind of have some iffy moments with the banking, but again, I can kind of get my head around that working within Kowloon. With the food, you'd assume it would just be like if these guys lived here this whole time, they'd just be dead. They'd just eventually die because the food and drink they're eating doesn't really exist. So it must exist and must help them because again, they'd pretty much all be dead, right? But how does that work? How do these memories of an old Kowloon manifest into a physical kind of yeah? Again, we haven't really got too many answers in that regard. As I said, like there's so many things like that that are just unexplored. It just really makes you question where this is going. Are they ever going to answer these questions? Because they're not massively important. So I don't think they are. Why did you? I mean, I know you've just found out the truth, but why do you care now? You've been drinking and eating this stuff for all this time. You shouldn't really be this fussed about it. Again, I know she's just realised the truth and whatever, but she thought she was going to get poisoned or something. That would have happened a long time ago. That's bloody cicadas. How do you pronounce that, by the way? Is it cicadas or cicadas? There's this dude again. Wow, the monster energy drinks there are not even trying to hide it. Literally just done a 180 on the logo. And what happened to her? It's like she's taking drugs. Well, what do you want? What? How do you do? How do you sort this out if you can't cancel and you can't pay? Didn't these two shag like not so long ago? Oh, the classic Dead by Daylight. I never played that game. For some reason, anytime something about that game pops up on my Twitter and I click it, my whole page just ends up becoming Dead by Daylight shit. Literally got to like exit every time, just say I'm not interested. Like as soon as you click something, it just that's the only thing that's ever done that. Like I click plenty of different media and so on. Yeah, for some reason that always just ends up absolutely taking over. I don't know about you guys. Like scenes like that, I just feel a little bit lost. Like, what was the significance of him being outside this Wong place? Oh shit, the bullhead. Is it? But this guy looks a lot like that girl. Maybe that's a version of her that had a sex change or something. Or maybe it's just her brother. I don't know. Ruffles. Bloody hell. Whereas my answer would be the blue one, the red one. What did he say? If it were my body shape from a few years ago. So am I right in saying they might have had a sex change? I'm not sure what they mean by that. Like I said, it just feels like there's so many things left to answer. And we really haven't got too many episodes left, I don't think. So they're going to have to answer a lot in this movie that's going to be coming out. Whether I'm going to watch that movie, I don't know, to be honest with you. That was strange, wasn't it? It's like she was high. It wasn't even like she was high. It was like she was high. It was like a depiction in a movie of someone being high, which is just like so extra. Good question, actually. That's an interesting question. How could this place affect your mental well-being? It's a really interesting question he brings up there. I'd quite like to look into that, but we've got so many things to look into. We don't have time. This place could make you go crazy. At what point are you just hallucinating rather than being enveloped in this actual kind of nostalgic vision thing? I almost feel like it's kind of sad. I mean, I know he likes these little frill things, but it's almost kind of sad that they're like hidden away like this. I was gonna say it's almost pointless, but he knows they're there, which I think is maybe the point of this. He knows they're there. He knows they're there on the inside and they're real, and he's wearing them. But on the outside, we can't see them. Like I said, it's almost feels pointless from our perspective because you don't get to see these cool little frills. So what did he say here? I mean, that was like ASMR what happened right there. Two voices kind of whispering at the same time. I did used to watch a bit of ASMR years ago when I sometimes when I struggle to sleep, but I think at a certain point it stopped affecting me. An accumulation of nostalgic, precious things. I think ASMR is like the most popular video search on YouTube. I think I saw it not too long ago. Yeah, that was the thing, wasn't it? She's a different person, yet she is. Sorry to pause again, but I'm glad this has happened, to be honest, because it's been so much, and I'm glad we get at least somewhat of a summary here. Um, Maybe the show I really usually don't appreciate kind of recap episodes, but maybe this show could have used one. I know it's only been 9 episodes, but something like this, so like synopsizing it all. But yeah, there was something very early on mentioned about that mole and how these generics or something can actually replicate appearance to the degree that Kujirai B's appearance has been replicated. So maybe that's because she's cared about so much by the people here that the kind of nostalgic vision or whatever you want to call it of her, whatever replaced her, it was so appreciated and loved that it's in much more detail than any other person. But again, I'm just purely just chatting rubbish there and could be nonsense. But yeah, she was a bit of a strange case in that kind of duplication regard, wasn't she? which is funny because her personality is entirely different. I like the current Kujirai, but there is something very attractive and endearing about the old Kujirai. And the way she is. What the fuck is zirconium? That was the word I was looking for earlier. So, again, to question the logistics of things here, if you just ate a meal and then you went outside Kowloon, that meal would then disappear, right? Inside you. Again, I just want to get my head around that. It obviously happened with the money. So I think it's very much. I assume it's okay because if this is again probably a very stupid point to get stuck up on, but it's okay because you probably digested the food and enough food to kind of keep you going. Assuming that the food from Kowloon and the drinks and the nutrients and such kind of stay with you. If you were to leave, you'd still be okay, but you'd just be very hungry and you'd have an empty stomach. And again, I'll assume that everything you eat, being items from Kowloon, would disappear. You wouldn't just die. You wouldn't just shrivel up and turn into a skinny, malnourished person. But yeah, it just makes you question like everything that you even put inside yourself: drugs, alcohol, food, water. If you get a blood transfusion in Kowloon, like does the blood disappear when you leave? Like, yeah, the logistics here are a little bit questionable. Again, passable, I guess. You can have like mental gymnastics to make it passable, but in terms of what the show's told us, there's no definitive answer. So, just kind of interesting to think about. Again, apologies about that. Probably not really the most important point ever, but yeah. I think it's always quite hard to keep things within the rules when you've got such a crazy premise. Damn. And forcefully take her out. Okay. Okay then. Like, to be honest with you, what have we achieved today? What part of the story's progressed today? Maybe it's again my perception of an understanding of certain scenes not being fully there. I don't know, it just doesn't feel like we've gotten anywhere today. And it feels like that quite often in this show. And there's a few things that, like that conversation we just heard there with the Hebinuma head, the father of Miyuki, I think he is, and the bowl cut teeth guy, little tooth guy. There's little things like that, but how does that impact the? Yeah, I don't know. It feels a little bit like it's not quite as bad, but it feels a little bit like the story of Lazarus that aired this season, which I ended up dropping. Rejected. That's why you shouldn't tap the glass. I tell you never to tap the glass. Bruh. She's worried about a fucking pack of sugar. Chuck that shit away. Come on. I mean, I get waste not, want not, but fucking pack of sugar. Well, that brought back some of the memories we saw earlier in this episode. Man, he must feel so bipolar for her, and we get why, but just like we get stuff like this, and then the next minute he comes over, hears something that he remembers from Kujiraye, and then acts all depressed, and yeah, must be so hard for her. I know it's hard for him as well, but sometimes he's got to think of her perspective as well. We're always thinking of his perspective. Oh shit, what the hell? Holy crap. What was that about? Well, I think we saw that scene in the earlier on in the episode from Kujiraye, right? So she literally saw things through her perspective there. Hebi Ichigo. Snake strawberry, does that mean? Well, he was kind of tasked with doing that anyway, a little bit, wasn't he? Interesting. I still don't really know what the deal is with this white-haired guy. As I said, it was probably mentioned earlier, but sometimes, like, again, some of the details of the show just elude me. Really interesting scene there. I'm probably just going to skip the end, to be honest. I don't think there's any previews there. Yeah, this was really interesting. Perhaps there was never a Kujiraye. Like, I know I said this theory last episode of perhaps she's Kujiraye and Kujiraye B was the imposter. Perhaps there is no Kujiraye B. Perhaps they're both Kujiraye, and she can just switch personality or something. It was kind of mentioned earlier in the episode about the subconscious. Perhaps if she like puts on this outfit, she just like her whole kind of persona and subconscious changed to that of Kujirai A. Where it's actually just like her kind of split personality or something akin to that. As they did mention, as I mentioned, it would be really interesting to kind of look at the mental aspect of the people that experience this and see if they are being, if their mental state is being influenced and kind of affected by being in a delusion. I imagine it probably would have some effect, especially if you know you're living in a delusion. I think if you're again, it's kind of like the Truman Show. Once you kind of figure out, it's like, oh my god, everything's a lie, and you start going crazy and so on, and you can't trust anything, stuff like that. But again, there's just so many possibilities. It's just, yeah, could be anything. So there's no point getting focused on one thing, I don't think. But yeah, I think we saw this scene from Kujirai's perspective. Or perhaps, I don't know. We'll go back to it, I guess. See if we can. Yeah, it's right at the start here. Well, that's handy, isn't it? Literally right at the start. Very interesting. Again, it could be what I said of perhaps she's both of the Kujirais. Perhaps it's just a case that these glasses magically kind of kept her memories in them, even though it's an inanimate object. Though the inanimate objects are memories themselves. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. As I said, there's so many possibilities and theories I imagine out there that it could be anything. But like I said, I feel like the plot really didn't develop too much. Again, this episode, it feels like for the past maybe 5 weeks that's been the case. Again, they've done a really good job with the characters and developing the characters and the relationships between them and so on. But yeah, it just feels like we haven't. If the story was going at 10%, it was at 10% in episode 1, 20% episode 2, 30% episode 3. 40% episode 4. It feels like since episode 4 it's gone up like 2% now between episodes, so it's gone up 42% episode 5, 44%, and it's just like it feels like the pacing of the plot specifically has been much slower. There hasn't been as many kind of massive revelations. I feel like every episode seemingly ends off with some kind of big cliffhanger that ultimately ends up being nothing actually too major and something perhaps we already kind of figured out or already knew. This ending here, like I said, it's almost the exact same thing. His job from the head of the company, Miyuki's dad, the heavy Numa, whatever the hell, his job was pretty much to test out the whole we'll call them doppelgangers, to test out the deal with them to see what would happen with Kujirai if she steps out of Kowloon, which I want to see as well. So ultimately it was to, I mean, the goal wasn't to eliminate her, but that was part of what he was going to do anyway. And the revelation here is that he's now going to work with this guy to eliminate her, meaning that she is of some massive importance to whatever's going on, which I think we can assume, considering she's the main character, and that she has those distinct differences from other duplicates, doppelgangers, whatever you want to call them, being that she is very specifically much more accurate to the initial kind of human being, which again might kind of go along with that theory that there is only one Kujirai and there only ever was one Kujirai, or she was the original, whatever theory you want to believe. Whatever the case, she is of some massive importance to this guy whose goals I still don't really know, and I'd like to figure out. It probably was mentioned before, but I do not remember. But yeah, the ultimate revelation here is that either way, this guy is going to be targeting her. So yeah, again, do let me know what you guys thought about this one in the comment section. As I said, lots of stuff to discuss, even though the plot didn't really move too much as usual today, which is again quite worrying pacing wise, because just feels like we've got a lot to answer in a very short span of time. I seem to be saying that every week. But yeah, leave a like on the video if you guys did like, and subscribe to the channel if you do want to keep up to date. And I'll see you guys next time with episode 10.